Hi there, welcome to Pitch Side. Thank you so much for definitely sharing your feedback and comments about the content that we share. I appreciate the love, I appreciate the support. We see you and thank you. Just keep it flowing. It takes you half a second to actually go out there on the YouTube channel Pitch Side with Tabu Peter. Subscribe and let's grow this channel together. So thank you so much. That I can't start an episode without appreciating or telling you out there, guys. Today we have the privilege of hosting a colleague, a brother here on Pitch Side, who you all know. Excited to have him here on the show. Mr. Clive Kyazze from CK Sports has joined me today to discuss quite a number of talking points, especially the Afcon 2025 that is going to be hosted in Morocco, where, of course, we expect to see massive fixtures that are going to, go down there in the various stadiums that are going to be hosted. So, Clive, welcome to Pitchside. By the way, for the very first time, interestingly.
Well, greetings, Peter. Greetings to the viewers from wherever they are watching us from. And yes, I'm happy to finally be given an invitation. I'm a big fan of the channel.
Yeah.
But I'm glad to be here today.
Yeah, guys, again, Sika Sports is on YouTube again as well. So you definitely can go out there and subscribe, spread the gospel as well, because we're all in the same journey. So, Clive, I'll start with welcoming you back from Morocco. I got to know you're flying to Morocco on that day of travel. I didn't know anything. And before I knew it, you are in Tangier, you are in Casablanca, you are in Rabat. Welcome back, sir.
Thank you very much, Peter. I got to know that I was traveling to Morocco 3 days before my trip. 3 days before my trip, when a colleague of ours extended an invitation to me, Kevin Tea from Kenya. Somebody reached out to him, and by somebody I mean Prince Zul, who is a Cameroonian, but working in conjunction with the Royal Moroccan Football Federation. They do have a company called a Future Media Initiative. So they work with the Moroccan FA together with the Moroccan government to try and create a publicity of the Africa Cup of Nations like Morocco is going to be hosting. So Prince Zul reached out to Kevin, asking him if he knows a sports journalist, an influencer content creator from Uganda. And Kevin reached out to me. When Kevin reached out to me, I told him I was in. So
we know you with traveling.
I woke up this one morning and I have the air ticket on my phone. And Kevin gives me Prince Zul's number to try and get to him. So I got in touch with him. Yes, the day of the travel, I woke up and I had my letter that allows me to get the visa on arrival. So that's how I ended up traveling to Morocco for 7 days to cover their preparations for the 2025 Africa Cup of Nations.
For a country like Morocco that is going to host, the African continent, to actually go ahead and organize, such a setup, such an idea, to actually have such an idea and, bring together top content creators on the continent and journalists to go and showcase how ready the nation is ahead of a major competition like Afcon should be something that we don't see often on the continent.
Yes, we don't see often on the continent. Qatar tried to do it when they were trying to build up to the World Cup that they hosted. I'm not sure whether the Americans have done it, but also the way Morocco are doing it, or the way Morocco did it this time round, they didn't only bring in people from the African continent. They brought in people from Asia, they brought in people from Europe, they brought in people from America, people from South America, and of course across the continent. You're talking about close to 400 journalists, content creators, influencers in your country for 7 days, traveling all these cities, staying in the best hotels, eating the best food, but also getting some of the best hospitality that you'll get when you get to travel on the African continent. And you could look at the direction they are taking. I'm talking about over 400 people, and probably just 10 or 20% of that were journalists in the mainstream media majority of the people were actually content creators. I looked at people from West Africa who have digital numbers in 8 millions. Somebody has a digital presence of 13 million, and 8 or 11 of those are on TikTok. Somebody has a Facebook following of 20 million, and they are here because they know if you have a person like that in your space and they are creating content around Morocco, and you have an audience of 20 million, probably all the 20 will see this content, or half of those people will see your content. That is 10 million or stuff like that. So just imagine having 400 people. How much digital presence do you have in a space of 7 days, all talking about Morocco?
Across the world.
Across the world, you're probably talking about over a billion, a billion, I could say, following from all these different people. I was the only no, I wasn't the only Ugandan. Together with Fred Kawesi, the sports editor at New Vision, we had people from East Africa, Kenya, Tanzania, people from Congo Brazzaville, people from Rwanda, different countries from West Africa, South Africa, Zambia, Nigeria, Ghana, Tocho, France. You had people all in one place, and the message was one: try to let the world know that the Africa Cup of Nations is coming to Morocco, and they can be part of it.
Which is a very, very exciting experience. So, anyways, we know for sure that Morocco is going to host the Afcon. That's a fact now. The number of stadiums, the number of cities, how everything is going to involve, moving from one place to another, is definitely why we have Clive Kyazze on pitch side today to break us down, to break it down for us here. Clive, where did you guys go? Or which cities did you visit? And which stadiums did you visit? And what perspective now do you have as Clive Kyazze ahead of the AFCON 2025?
Of course, the journey started in Casablanca. Me personally, I didn't get to visit the stadium in Casablanca because the Sunday morning I got there, the team was getting ready to leave for Tangier. So as soon as I got to the airport, as soon as I got to the hotel, we actually didn't check it because colleagues were leaving. So we leave and we are taking a high-speed train to Tangier. That's the only high-speed train on the continent. A journey that took us about, should have been 1 hour and a half or 2 hours. Of course, on your way to Tangier, you go through Rabat. So meaning the same train can actually take you to Rabat for a game if you're staying in Casablanca and you come back to Casablanca. Or the same train, if you're staying in Rabat, you can come to Casablanca for a game, or you can go to Tangier for a game. Or if you're in Tangier and you want to come to Rabat for a game in Casablanca, you can use the same means of transport. So we go to Tangier where we spent a night. Of course, we visited the stadium there, still under construction, 75,000 capacity seater. And we were told that it is going to be done by the end of September. By September, actually, all facilities, we were told by September, all facilities are going to be done. Now, the following morning, we leave Tangier and we actually catch a flight to Agadir. It took us about, should have been 1 hour. A journey that will take you 8 hours or 10 thereabouts on the road. So those are all means of transport. They are trying to take us through the different experiences that fans can use if they are coming for the Africa Cup of Nations. We traveled to Tangier. We stayed in a Sofitel hotel, one of the best hotel groups in Morocco. 5-star hotel, very, very beautiful. Just behind it, there is the Atlantic Ocean. You actually just walk there. They don't get to tell you about it. You just walk there
And experience
and
it.
experience that. Of course, also there where you have the Agadir Stadium, also still under renovation. And we're also told that it will be done by September. So from there, we did a road trip to Marrakesh, where we visited the Stade Grand at Marrakesh. They were trying to put some final touches on it, and we were still told it will be done by September. Then from Marrakesh, that's where we came to Rabat. Now, Rabat has 4 of the 9 venues of this competition, because you're talking about 6 cities and 9 venues. Rabat has 4 of those. But of course, we visited only one, at the Prince Abdel Mole, the day Morocco were playing Niger in that a World Cup qualifier. And I got in there, and for a moment, I wondered if I was on the African continent.
Oh, Clive, please.
No, the stadium was
You are
very
blown
beautiful.
away.
I was blown away. I mean, we've had so many beautiful stadiums. The Olembe Stadium in Cameroon, the main stadium in Ivory Coast, I forget its name. I've not been to the
The
Amahoro
Utara
Stadium.
Stadium.
The Utara Stadium. I've not been to Amahoro Stadium, but I've seen your video and I've also heard people talk about the Amahoro Stadium. We've been around on the continent, Egypt and stuff like that. And to be honest, yes, it might have been brand new, but the way it was set up and stuff like that, honestly speaking, especially on the inside, I last experienced such during the World Cup in Qatar. I've been at the Stade de France for the I've not been there for a football game, but I've been there for the Olympics. I've been at Wembley for a football match, the Champions League final. I've not been to the Spurs Stadium. People say it's very beautiful, or the Emirates. But for those that have visited, I can comfortably say that the Prince Mole Abdallah Stadium is the best stadium I've visited. The features around the stadium, of course, it was brand new. So many things that they were getting right, especially with access routes. Volunteers are directing people here and there. Probably was also their first time. They're just trying to understand the geography of the stadium. But you get in there and you are blown away. That is the same stadium that is hosting the opening game of
Afcon
the Afcon
2025.
Morocco versus Comoros. It is also hosting the final. Actually, Morocco are playing all their three. They are the only group games that are going to be played there. The Morocco games, and then a round of 16, a quarter final, a semi final, together with the final. It is also one of the stadiums that are going to be used, or that they submitted in their bids in their bid book for the 2030 World Cup. So it is one of those facilities you look at and you're like, wow. And of course, there's something that the Moroccans have been preaching, that we should get ourselves ready for a European experience in an African atmosphere.
And Clive, just to cut you short briefly there, that was my next question. As someone who has covered tournaments on the African continent, when you get back here in Uganda with what you've explained,
Should we?
for someone out there who is going to watch this interview, you have a fan who probably wants you to paint a picture for them to go to Morocco to actually cover the Cranes and support whichever team, because it's the African Cup of Nations and it's a big major tournament. I mean, what picture do you give them? You know, aside from, reaching there, the hotels. I'm talking about now the traveling, the inland travel, the Moroccan people, the language. How are they able to adjust and, enjoy themselves in there? Basically, what picture would you paint for someone out there?
Well, of course, language would be an issue because they predominantly speak French, but out of 10 Moroccans you'll meet, 3 of them speak English. So that shouldn't really be an issue. You should be able to communicate. But it is also a very beautiful country. Excuse me. For the record, there are no potholes. The roads are very
Or
nice.
where you passed its intention of
There are no
going to-
potholes. I can confidently say there are no potholes.
Did you visit every corner of Morocco, Tangero,
Peter,
Casablanca?
there are no potholes in Morocco. They don't litter the streets. You told me to compare Uganda
Please.
to.
Yes.
They don't litter the streets. People follow the traffic guidelines. There are no borders. But of course, there are lots of cabs. But just to answer your question, it's a very beautiful country, without a doubt. The only difference is that the Afcon comes around in January and December. It is winter season, so the winter in Europe spills over. So whoever is planning to travel for the competition, carry the right clothes for you to be able to survive in those periods. I've been in North Africa, should have been in Libya in 2013, in February, and I was very uncomfortable. The sun was out like it is now, but the
it
place
was
is
so
very
cold.
cold because the winter spills over. So carry the right clothes. But also, it is a place, of course, the ticket prices are yet to be out. So we are yet to know how much the games are going to be cost. But we believe it shouldn't be very expensive because CAF and probably the organizers would want stadiums full to capacity. The other issue I say, especially for somebody who's coming from Uganda, if they want to go for the tournament, is the issue of the visa. Because in the region, there is, for instance, East Africa, there is one Moroccan embassy, and I think it is in Dar es Salaam.
Yes.
So if you're working with an agent and all that, just know that we don't have an embassy here. You can only get the visa from Dar es Salaam. they will probably have a different arrangement altogether. We'll wait and see. As a journalist, we sit in a point of a privilege because once you are accredited, you'll get your visa on arrival. Everyone doesn't have that privilege. We just need to wait and see. But by and large, it should be an exciting experience for whoever who is going to go out there for the tournament. But you also feel that whenever such competitions come around, prices of different things tend to go up,
Yeah.
especially on
It's only
accommodation
normal.
and stuff like that. We should also It should also be noted that Morocco is the number one tourist destination on the continent. So the standard has already been set high. So if you're Ugandan, if you're Kenyan, if you're Tanzanian, if you're coming from the southern part of the Sahara and you're going for the Africa Cup of Nations in Morocco, remember you're going to be competing for space with people who are coming from Europe. It's 2 hours from France, Spain, and all those other places. You're competing with people who are coming from Europe, but also who are not scared to spend because
No,
they have the
I think
money.
to say it right, they plan well,
They plan well,
and they're able
exactly.
to actually spend the money.
They plan well and
Yeah.
they are able to spend. So you'll be competing with those people for space. So if you're looking for a room to stay or an apartment, just know that somebody from Europe is looking for the same space. So do you have the money? Can you compete with them and stuff like that? And this is not only about Morocco, but it happens everywhere. Every time you have a competitions of at this time coming around. But when you look at the previous 3 Afcons personally that I've been able to cover, you feel that this one is going to be a little bit different from the others in so many ways. And we just probably need to wait and see if how we will be able to live in the moment.
You are able to, experience Chan here on home soil, co-hosted by Uganda, Kenya, Tanzania. And this was like a precursor for Afcon 2027. If you look at the experience you had in Morocco, and you know for sure that you know what it takes for a tournament or a nation to actually host a tournament at the magnitude of the Africa Cup of Nations like Morocco, and then you relate this to Uganda, Kenya, and Tanzania. What are some of those things that you picked out that you feel will be crucial for the three nations in East Africa to create an experience that is going to be better than Afcon 2025? Because after this Afcon,
It won't be.
Clive,
I can authoritatively say it won't be.
what are you basing on to say it won't
I
be?
can authoritatively say it won't be.
So whatever Morocco is going to
Whatever Morocco is going
whatever
to
standard
do,
Morocco is
we
going
are
to
not
set.
going to match it.
In any way,
Never. We will not. That I cannot.
what can we improve on to try and reach Morocco's level?
We are not going to improve on anything, and we should not put ourselves under pressure. We should just try to do our level best to meet the standards that CAF require. Our first AFCON was in Egypt 2019.
Yes.
We didn't go to Gabon. The people who went to Gabon will definitely tell you that Egypt was much better. But also remember, Egypt got the rights to host the tournament 6 months, I think, to the competition after CAF realized that Cameroon were not going to be ready. And this is Egypt. They had everything in place. 6 months, they were able to organize a tournament that was that successful. Of course, you thought that our standards lowered a little bit in Cameroon, but still you could see that it was a well-organized tournament. Then you go to Ivory Coast and you feel that Ivory Coast outdid themselves. Out of the 3 competitions I've covered, I would comfortably say that for me, the tournament in Ivory Coast was the best I covered in so many ways. The facilities, that atmosphere, the country, safety in terms of security, and all that. So, including the football on the field of play. Now, that has nothing to do with us as hosts. Morocco are hosting the Africa Cup of Nations, but they're also using the tournament to prove to the world that
They can host the World Cup.
we will be able to host the World Cup, which they are already going to be hosting alongside Portugal and Spain. But also remember, when the bids for the 2026 World Cup were out, while we had the joint bid of Mexico, Canada, and USA, Morocco had a solo bid. And still at that time, we knew that the World Cup was going to be expanded to 48 nations.
Yes.
And this tiny African country was telling the world that we are able to host a World Cup of 48 nations. Unfortunately for them at the time, they didn't get the rights. USA took the rights, but still that didn't stop them. And over the years, they have been hosting different international competitions. They are hosting the Under 17 World Cup for the next 5 years. They have hosted the FIFA Club World Cup before. They have hosted the Afcon. They have hosted so many different competitions. But also, they are building stadiums that are not African standards, but world standards because of what is coming up in 2030. So this is why for me I'm saying that we should not even bother, because this is something that is being done.
Clive, there has to be something we can
Peter,
work on. Hospitality.
teams
I don't know, something.
teams countries that host such events and they are successful as they have the goodwill of the leadership of that country. The kingdom of Morocco is being very intentional
In what they're investing
in what they are investing in, of course, together with their with the Royal Moroccan Football Federation, the tourism sector, and stuff like that. Now we come from this part of the world where people feel it is a taboo to work together to achieve a certain goal. Everyone wants to run their own race, yet actually they should be sitting on a round table to see how best can we organize something and we get the best out of it. And for me, we are going to put ourselves under unnecessary pressure, because on the 18th of January 2026, when the final is done, awards, everything is done, there's usually that ceremony where the CAF president and other CAF officials hand over the CAF flag to the next hosts. So you expect the three ministers from Uganda, Kenya, and Tanzania, and probably their FA presidents
To be in Morocco.
present for that function where the flag will be handed over. Now, the attention of the world is going to turn, because you're talking about 2026, and the Afcon we are talking about is coming in 2027. Now, the attention of the world is going to turn to Uganda, Kenya, and Tanzania. And the question that everyone is going to be asking, will you be able to match or to meet the standards Morocco have set? I don't know what answers at the time the different politicians are going to be giving, but I can say it categorically here that we shall not. And we should not even bother to put ourselves under pressure to try and meet the standards that Morocco are going to set. We should just try our level best to do what we are supposed to be doing as a country, as a region, to host a very successful Africa Cup of Nations.
Maybe we can counter this question in this way. With the just concluded CHAN tournament, what is your take home from some of the things you feel like off the pitch can be worked on so that by AFCON 2027, we have a clearer picture? We probably are trying to actually do better than we've been before, because it's very, very crucial.
Well, hosting such international events is an opportunity to market and advertise the country. I don't remember the Uganda Tourism Board or the Minister of Tourism being fully involved in the CHAN competition. Now I'm speaking on the side of Uganda. I wasn't in Kenya. I wasn't in Tanzania.
No, let's be very factual. In Kenya, it was put out there. Tourism was put out there. Teams went to the Nairobi Park. Magical
No,
Kenya
but also using the Uganda Tourism Board being intentional to use this competition to market and publicize the country. We didn't see that. Like we said, Morocco is the number one tourist destination on the continent. It is not by default. They are being intentional. Now, how we didn't have that at the CHAN. Yes, people will come and they will be asking, where can I go? But before they start asking those questions, the Uganda Tourism Board and the Minister of Tourism, what are you doing to make sure that you are letting people know what some of the activities that they can do when they come to Uganda for the Africa Cup of Nations? So for me, I feel you are building a stadium very many miles away from here. That's the Hoima City Stadium, which is going to be a facility for the Africa Cup of Nations. What activities are being done, or what kind of sensitization is being done in Hoima for the locals to prepare them for that competition that is coming up? Because it is an opportunity to market the western part of Uganda, like the way other people are doing with the Kasese Marathon and stuff like that. So for me, I thought that area was lacking, and it needs to be improved beyond setting up a viewing area at Nambore, decorating it and stuff like that. Before that, what exactly are you doing? Peter, the Chan started, and I don't remember where I was coming from, but I was at the airport at the belts waiting for my luggage, and the belts were advertising Hisense and Real Madrid. This is like a week or something to the competition.
Yeah.
I mean, you've been to these competitions, and the moment you get out of the plane, you go through immigration and all that, you're looking around, and you know what's up. Something is happening in this country. Even if you're just coming and you didn't know, the airport alone will be letting you know what is happening in this country. The tournament started, and we didn't have anything showing. It was later when we started having billboards around the country and stuff like that. The other day we were coming, you've been to the airport severally. You drive from the airport to Kampala, and how many billboards are you seeing around, and they are telling you about the competition? These things were put up later, midway the competition. So it goes back to different stakeholders, a government, in this case, the local organizing committee, the federation, CAF, and others sitting on a round table to discuss and see exactly what are they going to do to make sure that they use this competition to put Uganda out there. That is what Morocco did the last 7 days by getting over 400 journalists, content creators, and influencers, have them in their country, because they know whatever amount they spent on us, they are going to be able to recover that through tourism, because it is already making money for them. So we need to be intentional with the way we think and plan when 2027 is coming around.
All right, so hospitality, marketing, branding are some of the points that you've picked out as regards to, the three East African nations co-hosting the next major tournament, which is Afcon 2027. Interestingly, that would be after the Afcon 2025 that we're going to have.
That will end in January
That will,
2026.
yeah, that we're going to have in Morocco. But Clive, we every now and then talk about officials, venues, teams, and sometimes forget about ourselves as journalists. As a journalist, just how important is it for journalists out there to cover competitions like Afcon? I know the just concluded Chan tournament had many of us churning out content, and rightly so. Many of our colleagues did a very very good job. But now, as someone who has been at Afcon, at the World Cup, and all these other major tournaments, just how important is it for a journalist out there to actually take it upon themselves to cover a competition like the Africa Cup of Nations?
First of all, it's very, very important on a personal level, on your CV. I mean, you every time you're doing a job, you want to strive for the best. We cover athletes, and these athletes have dreams of being world champion, of playing at the biggest stage, playing for the best team in the country, the best team on the continent, the best team in the world, and these guys work tirelessly to achieve those dreams. Now, as a journalist, especially a sports journalist, you should be having the same mindset. I would want to cover the Africa Cup of Nations. I would want to cover the World Cup. I would want to cover the Olympics. Right now, I'm bitter that I had an opportunity to cover the World Championships in Tokyo, but I'm not going to, and it doesn't sit well with me. But I've been at the Africa Cup of Nations. I've been at the World Cup. I've been at the Olympics. I've been at the Commonwealth Games, the Netball World Cup, and all these other events. And truth be told, apart from fulfilling your dream as a journalist, it is also an eye opener. You get to see how the world has revolved, how different people get to practice their journalism and all that. An opportunity to network, make friends, and stuff like that. I didn't know how important or useful my phone was until I was at the Africa Cup of Nations in Cameroon. And you had all these different TV journalists from different parts of the continent. And they weren't carrying big cameras and stuff like that. They were using their phones. At the time, I had a Techno phone, but I was like, like people have, and you're looking at people's final products, and you're like, wow. Now that was an eye opener for me. If I'd probably not gone
You didn't have
to the Afcon in Cameroon, maybe I wouldn't have known that or stuff like that, because I came back here and I was like, to hell with cameras. Actually, my phone can do exactly what the camera I can't do. And ever since then, it is me and my phone, unless otherwise. But also the opportunity to network, the opportunity to meet different people from different countries. On so many occasions, we've been able to get gigs that pay good money because of our ability to get into those spaces, connect, and network with people. To the extent that if somebody wants somebody from Uganda to probably do a job for them and stuff like that, because you were able to meet and connect with this person, it will be able to say Clive, it will be able to say Peter, it will be easier for them to say Darren and stuff like that, because you are in their spaces. Yeah. And you've probably over time proved that you are good at what you are doing. So it is very important. That is why for me, when we won the bid to host the Africa Cup of Nations, I was very excited that the Africa Cup of Nations was going to come to East Africa and Uganda in particular. But most importantly, I was excited because I had an opportunity not to spend millions to go to cover an Africa Cup of Nations. It is in Uganda. I stay in Naria. A border is 5K to get me to Nambori and stuff like that. I won't be paying. I won't be spending on hotels and stuff like that. I'm not going to be spending money on air tickets. I'm not going to be bothered about the visa. All I'm bothered about is a CAF give me accreditation. I'll be covering the tournament. Hoima is 4 hours away from here. So when we eventually got the chance, as like, we also have an opportunity as a journalists to get to see how journalists are treated at a stage like the Chan, at a stage like the Africa Cup of Nations. Because, Peter, we all know that we come from a setup where there is zero respect to journalists, especially sports journalists. We've been abused by the stakeholders who should actually be respecting the kind of job we
looked down onto.
Yes, looked down onto, stepped on by these actual administrators who later call you when they want something to be publicized and all that, but they won't waste a second to put it in your face to show you how worthless you are. So I was excited that this tournament coming around and us getting an opportunity to cover it from home, we will have an opportunity to be, people will have an opportunity to experience how a journalist should be respected and should be treated. And we're able to see that in the Chan. And I hope that it will be the same story when the Afcon comes around in 2027.
Yeah, very, very good insight on journalists and why it's important for you to actually go out there and cover tournaments like these ones. It's a very good experience. I mean, I've also been there, a couple of them, and I can tell you you're not the same when you actually come back. Clive, the Afcon is definitely happening in December, and Uganda, fortunately, is one of the nations that is going to compete in this one. They've missed, after 2019, they've missed a couple in there.
Two.
Yeah, but the Cranes in Group C, of course, Tunisia, Nigeria, Tanzania, and the Uganda Cranes. I mean, let's start with how the Cranes are leading up to the tournament. How, I mean, you look at the Chan and, you know, the qualifiers that they had to qualify for Afcon. What picture do you have for the Cranes as they head into the Africa Cup of Nations before we get to the group and how maybe we can perform?
Well, of course, we've been getting some good results in the recent past. For me, I thought our performance at Chan was very impressive, much as we weren't able to go far in the competition. Yeah. You look at the World Cup qualifiers that we've been playing, and the team is really giving a good account of themselves. Coach Paul Put and his technical team are doing some great work. Of course, they have 2 more games to play in the World Cup qualifiers next month against Botswana and Algeria. Those are another opportunity for them to continue preparing themselves. And we just need to wait and see what will be lined up for them in November, because now the tournaments will be nearing. And the fact that we are going back for the first time since 2019, you'd want to probably still go back there and try to compete. Of course, we have a few issues here and there. Isma Watenga out injured, won't be a part of that one. You feel the return of Dennis Onyango alongside Jamal Salim is a good boost to the team. We remember those two were part of the Uganda Cranes team in Egypt alongside Robert Odonkara, if I'm not mistaken. So if you have Onyango on the team, you have Jamal Salim on the team, you have Captain Halid Awucho on the team. You have people who have experience because they were at the previous Africa Cup of Nations and they can be able to guide these other kids around. Of course, it is a tough group. You're talking about Nigeria, you're talking about Tunisia, you're talking about Tanzania. Actually, while we were in Cameroon, I was rather in Morocco, I was asked to predict the final standings of Group C, and I put Uganda above everybody else on 7 points. I put Uganda on 7 points. I
Wow,
put Tunisia on 6 points. I put Nigeria on 3 points, and I put Tanzania
that was a patriotic Clive
on 0 points.
speaking.
So yeah, but you feel that we should be able to prepare adequately to go out there and compete. Of course, you already have a Tunisian side that is going for the World Cup, where you feel that they are the best team in the group. But we have an opportunity to shock Nigeria. We have an opportunity to shock Tanzania. The Nigeria game is the last one in phase. Two of the other games are against Tunisia and Tanzania are going to be played in Rabat. But for me, I think we are on the right track when it comes to preparations. We just need to wait and see how Coach Paul Put and the others will be intensifying their preparations as the tournament nears.
As we head to AFCON, it's clear that the government has really put a keen eye on infrastructure and also supporting the team. You saw the president confirm that he had given the players 2.4 billion shillings for winning those two games at Chan. Just how important is this for Uganda's preparations at a tournament like AFCON? And just how much should the government be involved in trying to make sure this team prepares and is ready for a competition like the AFCON?
I think the government is already playing their part. We all know that the Federation of Uganda Football Associations is the most funded federation by government. You're talking about 17 billion Uganda shillings annually. And the people at Menga have come out lately and categorically told us that that money is meant for national team preparations, if you remember very well. So money is always coming in. On two occasions, they got money to prepare for the Chan. The one that was postponed in February, in January, if you remember, they got another 5 billion for the one that eventually happened. So we just need to wait and see how much government is going to invest in this particular tournament. Of course, like you said, government has always come through, and you expect them that, and you expect that they will come through. And you will also need to love the fact that the head of state is beginning to pick attention. I mean, he chose a wife for the Minister of Education and Sports, and you've also seen how she has actually gone out of her way to embrace this, to the extent that she was very bitter when we lost to Algeria in the opening game of the Chan, and she summoned everyone, including the head coach, Molebiekwa. So you get a sense of people are beginning to pick interest. Probably they just need to know how to control their emotions and stuff like that. But that's the direction you want to take when sport is picking the direction of the powers that be, because at the end of the day, you'll need the goodwill of the powers that be for you to be able to achieve some of the targets that you want to achieve. I'm confident that government will adequately fund the Cranes' preparations for the Africa Cup of Nations.
For the AFCON. One of the things, just before you talked about the government, you highlighted how Coach Paul Put and his technical team are doing a very good job. And one of the things that I've observed critically from Paul Put is the trust he has put in local-based players. If you look at Uganda's last 8-9 matches, you can count the number of players he has trusted on the big stage. Unfortunately, they've actually delivered. When you go back to AFCON 2019, we actually were in an era where local-based players weren't exactly trusted.
They weren't good enough.
And, Coach Sebastian Desabre didn't exactly give them as much.
We had a couple of them there.
Ruanga in that
Timothy
team.
Awani, Alan Chamba, they were still playing here.
Here and there. But it looks like we are shifting.
Patrick Kaddu, the main striker.
Yeah, but we are shifting towards, trusting, some of these local-based players. The question is, at this stage in the next 3 months, how different will they be? Because we've seen them at Nambole, we've seen them in these qualifiers at Chan, and they've stepped up. But the stage, will they be ready for the stage?
Yes, like you've mentioned, I think the local-based players that have been trusted have given a good account of themselves. People like Alan Okello, and not even the Chan, even before the Chan, the other World Cup qualifiers that he was involved in, and the World Cup qualifiers, you could see how he was actually performing, the kind of performances he did put up. The Dennis Somedis of this world before they started playing outside this country, the other being Jude Semugabi. So he has tried his level best. But also when you look at Peter, all the others that are playing outside probably Bita, Edio Caprodosi, and some of those others, all those kids 2 or 3 years ago, they were playing in the Uganda Premier League. So you feel that it is not a case of trusting local based players. It is a case of do you have the ability to deliver? And you feel that whoever has the ability, whether local or foreign based, they will be given an opportunity. And are good enough for, like we did say, players like Alan Okello, Jude Semugabe, and all the others have embraced these opportunities and they have actually gone out there to perform.
The other factor is on Paul Put, who we all know now doesn't have as much time as a national team coach with his contract set to run down.
When is it running out?
Probably 2 months or one. About there for him.
Maybe it was renewed and we don't know.
No, my question wasn't on the contract renewal. My question is, as a journalist who has been covering the Cranes, would you comfortably sit here and say he should be the man to actually be in charge of the Cranes at the Afcon? We could be seated here and people have different ideas.
I believe he should be the Uganda Cranes coach going to the Africa Cup of Nations for a few pointers here and there. He has earned it. He qualified the Cranes to the Africa Cup of Nations, but he has also revived the Cranes. Before Paul Put, few Ugandans wanted to associate with the Cranes, if you remember very well.
Yeah.
The few that showed up Nambole were very bitter with the kind of football the Cranes were playing. They weren't satisfied, yet they thought that the team had the ability to play better football. The coach at the time thought we didn't have the players to play the kind of football the Ugandans wanted to play. Paul Put proved him otherwise, and actually the team plays the kind of football that the fans wanted to play, and they are getting the result. So for me, I believe he has proved himself beyond reasonable doubt. Yes, the contract is running out, but the big question is FUFA engaging him, or does Paul Put have other options elsewhere that are probably coming in with a better pay? But if it was up to me, there's no way that I would deny him an opportunity to coach the Ghana Cranes at the Africa Cup of Nations because he has earned it. And he has built that relationship between the team and the fans. When the Uganda Cranes play poorly, he will come to the press conference and apologize for playing poorly. He tells us to tell the fans that he's going to go back to the dressing room and tell them that the fans are not happy because you didn't play to their expectations and stuff like that. And we've not had so many coaches who appreciate fans. I think Paul Put is the first Uganda Cranes coach in a very long time. The other probably should have been Jonathan McKinstry, but he was around the time when we were under lockdown and we didn't really have fans coming into the stadiums. So Paul Put is the first that has always gone out there and appreciated fans. He has always apologized when things are not going right. He's always bitter when the stadium is empty. He's wondering why they are not showing up. And we've not seen that a lot with Uganda Cranes coaches, including the federation that thinks that they are doing fans a favor every time fans go out of their way to criticize or ask questions here and there. So he should be the Uganda Cranes coach at the Afcon, unless otherwise.
Unless otherwise. We conclude this interview with a very, very important point, and that is the fans. If you notice, with the Uganda Cranes games that have been played, Chan and the World Cup qualifiers, there's a new wave, there's a new sort of love for the national team, even with public display, public display affection. You have fans putting on jerseys and they have different messages behind them and stuff like that. Just how important will these fans play a role, especially when the team is actually playing at the Afcon? I know not many of them will have the opportunity to travel, but you want to see that atmosphere, that love, that support still going on for the Cranes.
Well, like you did say, the big question is how many of them will be making the trip to Morocco? You believe very few of them will be making that trip, but majority of them will be cheering and supporting from afar because you expect the different sponsors of the national team to probably have fun packs around the country when the national team is playing. So it is going to be a little bit difficult for the Cranes to play without their fans, but that's what international football comes with. Not all the teams will have the privilege of playing in front of their fans. You believe only Morocco probably will always be playing in front of their fans, and a few other countries. Egypt, you'll probably have a few of them making the trip. Tunisia and Algeria because they are close by, and probably a few West African countries. But also, how many Africans in Europe can make the trip to Morocco to cheer their different national teams? So it won't only be the Cranes. Of course, if you're used to playing at Nambole in front of that kind of electric atmosphere and all that, it takes a lot away from you. And that's not only for the Uganda Cranes, but it goes out there to all the national teams. So we've had games at Nambole here where the coaches of the opposing teams come out and say, I hope it is a full stadium tomorrow. He's hoping it's a full stadium tomorrow, but he knows it's going to be full and they're not going to be cheering him. But he knows his team will be feeding off that kind of atmosphere. So it won't only be the Cranes, but we just need to wait and see probably how many will be able to make the trip to Morocco, but also when they do make the trip to Morocco, how much noise will they be making to rally behind the boys.
All right. Thank you very much, Clive Kyazze, for passing by on pitch side.
Thank you for having me.
A delightful insight on, first of all, the experience in Morocco, how ready they are ahead of the Afcon 2025 happening in December, running through to January 2026. Like Clive keeps saying, Sika Sports and pitch side is are definitely going to be in Morocco, Clive, correct?
Without a doubt, inshallah.
Yeah, we are going to be in Morocco and we'll break it down for you. You out there, all you have to do is please check out our content. Sika Sports on YouTube. Please subscribe with Clive Kyazze. Pitchside as well on YouTube with Tabo Peter. Subscribe. Let's grow these numbers together. Keep the love coming and yeah, keep it both channels. Cheers.